Oh, okay. Right, that was a close one. Jesus. I did think that fire was in a bit of a precarious position if I was ever going to come at the building from behind. We're going to have to reposition that at some point. And let's just get our rested buff. Actually, I think if we go and sit in the corner here. Yeah, there we go. So if you look at the top right of my screen where my buffs are located, you can see that I'm resting at comfort level 4 and I have the shelter buff. So once I finish building this house properly and turn it into an actual building rather than just a hut with a side missing, we will be able to get the rested bonus and the shelter bonus from being inside all the time. No matter where we're stood, we should be able to get it. As long as there's no holes in the roof or anything like that, we should be all fine and dandy. And as you can see there, we've now got an 11-minute rested buff rather than an 8-minute one, so that extra 3 minutes, it's not that big of an increase, but that extra 3 minutes will help, especially when we're out and about exploring. Now, I am going to just continue on with our gathering and hunting. We do need to farm a heck of a lot more in terms of things like wood, stone. I want to grab a load more flint as well. And like I mentioned earlier, I am also going to look at building a boar farm at some point soon. Should probably do that in the next hour or two, actually. First few days. Thing with boars and the things with a lot of, to be fair, the thing with a lot of animals in a lot of zones is that the naturally occurring ones, so things like deer and boar and stuff like that, if you just spend the entire time wiping them out every time you see them, you are less likely to see them in those areas. I think it's something to do with the way the animals breed and stuff like that. Whereas if you set up like a boar farm on your base and get all the meat and leather scraps that you need from those boar and breeding those rather than the ones out in the wilds, you are much more likely to find 1- and 2-star boars. You can also tame those as well. They are a bit more difficult to tame as they do more damage, obviously, but I might look at getting a 2-star if we come across one, especially if it's nearby to our base. But again, we're not quite at that stage just yet, so for now we're just going to continue gathering. So we've just eaten a fresh round of food. We've just had a nice meal in the middle of our exploration here. I do just want to quickly cover the food buffs a little bit more. So with the timers on your food buff, I believe with some items it's when you've got 5 minutes left, and then other food items it's when you've got 10 minutes left. I believe the higher the time limit on the food item, the longer time you get to actually replace it. So you don't have to wait until that timer completely expires before you can eat another round of food. I think it's about halfway through the time limit. So for 10 minutes, if the item lasts 10 minutes, I think when you hit the 5-minute mark, that item will then start flashing. So the little icons next to your health bar, it will start flashing, like fading in and out. which is the game's indicating to you that you don't have to wait for it to run out. You can just eat something now and that will replace it. I'm not entirely sure whether you have to eat the same item as you've got in your stomach, or if you have to wait for the food slot to free up before you can eat something different. Or I could be completely wrong, you might just be able to eat something completely different altogether. This is something I'll have to test and reference in a future episode again. But I'm pretty sure that's how it works. I'm pretty sure that when it's flashing, you can just eat whatever you want. You know, it's basically the game is just saying your food buff is running out, you can now eat another food to, you know, replace it. Or you can wait until the food buff is completely run out, and then you'll have a little message pop up on your screen that says you are hungry and can eat again. And then obviously you'll see that you have a free slot or a couple of free slots in your stomach to put some different food buffs in there. Like I said, a lot of different foods have different buffs. I was incorrect as well at the start when we first started playing. I said that the raspberry buff was 8 HP or 8 health and 20 stamina. It's not 8, it's 7. I've eaten one since then and I've realised it's 7 health, but I just didn't correct myself. So yeah, I was incorrect about that one. And obviously the mushroom gives us 15 health and 15 stamina, and the boar meat that we're eating gives us 30 health and 10 stamina. So that kind of seems to be the way it is so far. So fruit and veg will give you more stamina over health. Meat items will give you more health over stamina. And then I think mushrooms, and there are a few other things as well that will kind of give you a mixture of both, so like 50-50 of both. When it comes to eating food and the different buffs you get from them, it kind of, for me, it depends on what it is that I'm doing. If I'm doing something like exploring and I'm not really expecting to get too much into combat, I'll go for 3 stamina foods because I want a nice big stamina bar so I can sprint for ages and ages and not have to worry about it running out. And obviously it means I can sprint for longer and explore quicker and stuff like that. And obviously I'll be avoiding combat, so I won't need a huge health bar. If I'm preparing myself for a boss fight, I'll always eat 2 health buffs and 1 stamina buff, because I want some extra stamina for blocking and for attacking and sprinting away and stuff like that and positioning myself. But I also want a lot of health so that the boss can't kill me in a couple of hits. And then for general just gathering and stuff like that and exploring new zones, for a little bit of combat, a little bit of exploring, stuff like that, I'll do 1 health, 1 stamina, and then 1 kind of 50-50 mixed item. There are some jerkies and stuff that you can make that will give you 50-50 as well, so we'll cover that in a bit more detail when we get to the actual boss fight itself. Now, there is a deer right in front of us here, and if you can see those little green particles flying across my screen from the left to the right, that's the indicator of the wind direction, so I should be able to sneak up to this one without it knowing I'm here. We are getting a bit closer, and smack. There she goes, she's down. So, the game does make it kind of easy for you to tell what direction the wind is blowing. You can always look at the bottom left corner of your minimap, which has a small arrow which is pointing the way the wind direction is. But I only really use that when I'm sailing, although again, when you're sailing there will be other indicators that tell you, so it's not that important to use that little arrow. But the game also, I think the developers realized that using that arrow and trying to work out which way you're facing versus which way the arrow is pointing to calculate the wind direction, it's a lot of quick thinking that you have to do, especially when you're hunting and sneaking. If I was to try and sit there and work that out for 5 to 10 seconds, the deer could have turned around in that 5 to 10 seconds and spotted me and then sprinted away. So the game does have some extra little indicators, and those little particles flying across my screen was one of them. There is also another one. I believe if you turn your graphics settings down, you might not see those particles, but you will see these little white lines that are kind of snaking their way through the air. That's another indicator they have put in there, and I believe those do still show up even if you've got lower graphics settings, because I believe it's supposed to be there as an indicator. This is the direction the wind's blowing, so, you know, we were pretty safe there to approach the deer and thwack it on the booty with our club. And you also saw the power of sneak damage. With most creatures so far, the club's taken a few swings to kill, whereas with the deer it hit it in 1 shot and killed it. We've now got some deer meat, which is a decent health food item. We've got some deer hide, and we also have a deer trophy. Now, the deer trophy, we can just hang this in our base once we have the ability to build things that we can hang items on, trophies, things like that. But we are going to keep this for another reason, which is this is the boss summoning item. So when we head over to Ep03's summoning table, this is the item we need to summon the boss and fight them. I can't remember exactly how many we need. I believe it's 2. But I can't remember off the top of my head. It's been a while since I last played this during Ashlands, and it's definitely been a while since I last fought Ep03 as well. So what I will do is I'll gather between 5 and 10 of them and take all of them over when we go to the boss fight the first time. So at least that way we've got enough to do it at the time. But again, like I said, I believe it's only 2. They don't really require that many of them to do a lot of the boss fights. It's only a few of the items. But that is the first one, hunting his kin or hunting their kin, and this was the item we needed. So we are on our way to getting ready for that boss fight. Okay, that right there was quite possibly one of my favourite quality of life updates that they gave to us players, which is the ability to quick stack into chests. Trust me, as someone who thoroughly enjoys having nice and neat and organised storage spaces in games like this, the ability to quick stack my inventory into chests that already have items in them is so good. It also means that any new items you've picked up will also be remaining in your inventory, so you can actually see what it is you've picked up and all the stuff that you've just gathered more of as just nice and neatly stacked into a chest. Thank you so much, developers. It's my favourite change. And you will also notice here that we have just crafted our new bow, and we've also crafted 100 arrows for it. So we are pretty much ready to go in terms of hunting some deer. It's going to make life a lot easier for us. Like I said, the initial bow isn't fantastic. It does have a lot of bow drop, and the arrow does travel. Sorry, it has a lot of arrow drop, and the arrow travels quite slowly. I'm really muddling up my words right now. Let's just test it on this bird. There we go. Killing birds, again, it's not a nice thing to do, but killing birds is important. You do get feathers from them, so feathers are an important resource for arrows later on in the game. Especially the higher damage arrows, we're definitely going to want a fair few feathers for that. You can also get feathers from random chests in the wild, and you can also get them from trees when you knock them down, so there are other ways of gathering feathers, sorry. Wow, I'm really mixing up my words today. I don't know what's going on in terms of my speech is going all over the place. But yeah, there's a lot of different ways you can get feathers. You don't have to go around murdering small birds, but I always do when they're just there. And here's our first deer. Now look how high I have to aim in order to get the arrow to hit. Even then, that was a bit close. But yeah, as you can see, the arrow does have a lot of drop and it travels quite slowly. So you do have to give it a bit of height above where the creature is standing. And you'll get the hang of it over time. The more you use it, the easier it will get to use. But yeah, with your initial bow, don't just aim directly at the creature. It will miss. You'll probably hit the ground, and sometimes you can do that and it will startle the creature and it will then run away. So if we're hunting deer, it's not really efficient. So I'd probably say test the bow out on stuff like boars and neck and stuff like that, so that you can get used to the arrow drop and the travel time on it. And then once you're confident in being able to hit things at a distance, you can then go off and start hunting deer without having to startle them or sneak. Or if you'd prefer to sneak as well, you could always do that. Again, I've already said that, you know, you've got indicators that tell you the wind direction, so sneaking is pretty simple as well. But I just prefer using a bow. I just think it's a bit quicker and a bit easier. But that is our bow made, arrows made, and we're hunting deer successfully. We've got ourselves a deer trophy, so we're pretty much ready to go for the boss. We're just going to need a few more of them. I also want to gain enough of the deer hide to make our first armor set. But in order to do that, we are going to have to craft ourselves an upgrade for the crafting table. And in order to do that, we are going to need to finish building this house and get some more room. Crafting tables do need a fair few upgrades, and they are items that you have to place on the ground near the table itself in order to get the benefit. So for some crafting tables, you will need a fair bit of space around them. It's a bit of a pain sometimes, but it'll be something that I'll showcase in future episodes when we finally build our proper base. A proper big building for our crafting. The way I like to do it is I like to have beds and sleeping areas and comfort and stuff like that in one building or one room, and then we'll have an entirely different building or room that's massive, dedicated to crafting, and then we'll probably even have another one that's dedicated to storage as well. But again, we'll cover that when we actually get to building it. And that is pretty much everything for this session. We're gonna go to sleep and call it a day for this one. It's been very fun. I've thoroughly enjoyed recording this, and I'm really looking forward to continuing with it. We'll try and get everything voiced and edited and cut together and sorted out properly and we'll get these uploaded as soon as possible. I'm really excited to get to Ashlands, and I'm really excited to actually start recording the content for it as well. So hopefully we'll have some of that for you sooner rather than later. Thank you everybody for watching. I hope you've enjoyed, and have a nice day.